Hello everyone, this is the Commonwealth realm and welcome to a new episode of Zelda Unknown about Kakariko, also known as the former capital of the enigmatic Sheikah race. With me is Ed from Zeltik, who will assist me in the course of the next couple of minutes and determine whether Kakariko will make a return in Zelda Wii U and what features and mechanics it might bring with it.
Thanks for having me, Conrad. Like many other provinces, our main source to determine the location of Kakariko in Zelda Wii U derives from the Game Awards presentation. Interestingly, several large sections of the overworld map heavily resemble the ones found in Ocarina of Time, which might be hinting a return of Kakariko in the northeastern section of the map, somewhere below Death Mountain. What makes this noteworthy is that the northeastern area located next to Hyrule Castletown consists of a lengthy dark strip, which might be a graveyard area resembling the graveyard found in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. With a larger world comes the need for more villages and towns. Zelda Wii U, as by far the vastest entry in the series, has to deliver a wider number of villages than in previous installments. One of these is in this case certain to be Kakariko, as no village shares the iconic status as the Sheikah village. The question though is whether the race themselves will return in Zelda Wii U.
In the available gameplay footage from Zelda Wii U, we can clearly see that Link's shield is marked with an eye, which appears to be suspiciously similar to the symbol of the Sheikah race. Could Link's shield possibly point at Kakariko to be Link's place of emergence in Zelda Wii U? After all, the Kokiri, Orden and Skyloftin variants of the wooden shield all eluded and were marked with the symbol of the hero's place of emergence. As to this point, all official appearances of the tribe have been narrowed down to one proper member, namely Impa. She has been present in so many installments that it is hard to count how many times she has been the caretaker of Zelda.
Nevertheless, if there is one thing we have not been introduced to, then it's a living Sheikah society in a bustling Kakariko. This will be a superb opportunity to include some new Sheikah characters in the Zelda universe. And yes, we know the timeline placement of the game might set a damper for this exciting idea, but we all know it's still a possibility for a Sheikah-governed municipality to appear in the unified timeline somewhere in between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time. The eye symbol on Link's shield must symbolise something, and for the first time in series history we could be introduced to a dynamic Sheikah capital, full of elements that will explain many mysteries connected to the Shadow Folk, such as their culture, traditions and rituals, economy, daily habits and family life, their commitment towards protecting the royal family of Hyrule, and of course, their close connection to the Shadows. There are so many possibilities in a numerous Sheikah society that it in fact would be a waste of potential to not include Kakariko as a stunning and beautiful Sheikah capital in Zelda Wii U.
As to this point, this higgledy-piggledy village has served as a backseat to the Kingdom of Hyrule. This could be due to change in Zelda Wii U, and the vision of a proper Sheikah capital is the one and only possibility to give Kakariko the fitting size and content it deserves. This basically means that the village should become a proper, bustling town with streets, accessible buildings, a central square, places of interest, and include landmarks such as a town hall, the iconic windmill and well, manors, bars, inns, shops, a minigame gallery, stables, blacksmiths, shoemakers, potion and magic stores, and finally a library where we can delve into and learn more about the proud history of this enigmatic race.
One of the most important areas that must be present in a Zelda Wii U Kakariko is the iconic graveyard. In Ocarina of Time, this was the place where both the beloved Redeads, the Sun Song, Dampé's Hookshot and finally the Shadow Temple were hidden. Could it be that Zelda Wii U will feature a graveyard in Kakariko's vicinity, and in that case mark a return of Redeads, Gibdos, Poes and other terrifying creatures? And more importantly, will Zelda Wii U's Kakariko dare to touch more extensively on the subject of death in an age when Nintendo is constantly accused of targeting their marketing towards younger demographics? Majora's Mask 3D might be a glimmer of hope though, as it appears Nintendo has realised how great a truly dark and gritty Zelda can be. But whether it will impact the seamless and colourful Zelda U is hard to tell, and will come down to the specific provinces, as I highly doubt the entire game will be as dark as Majora's Mask.
Kakariko's graveyard was the location of where the hookshot in the Ocarina of Time was hidden, but since we covered this item extensively in the previous episode of Zelda Unknown, I believe we should put some more attention to another important detail that might have a greater impact on the game than we might imagine. Since in the Game Awards presentation of Zelda Wii U, we were introduced to a familiar green bar below the heart containers in the upper left corner of the screen. In 3D Zelda games, this can mean only one thing: the magic bar. And more importantly, magic items will make a return in Zelda Wii U after a decade absence from the 3D installments. In this series, we have previously referenced the potential return of enchanted ice, fire and light arrows, and already confirmed energy arrows. Nonetheless, if there is one magic item that is heavily tied to Kakariko and the history of the Sheikah, then it will be the Lens of Truth.
Underrated by many, the Lens of Truth is no doubt one of the most important items in the Zelda series. Though this all-seeing eye was an optional item when included in Ocarina of Time, without it the Shadow Temple turns into a true nightmare, as its purpose is to make objects or beings that the human or Hylian eye cannot see visible. Just imagine what possibilities this item could create for Zelda Wii U, showing invisible objects and enemies, fake walls and floors, and maybe even deceased characters like in Majora's Mask. Moreover, the Lens of Truth could also serve as a key in solving environmental puzzles in the overworld outside of dungeons, towns or villages, to find out if a place is infested with invisible monsters, hidden traps, or even revealing hidden dungeons and treasure. And while we're at it, we might as well see the return of the Sheikah mask, the hovering boots, and the stone or shard of agony.
In terms of activities, Kakariko has had a variety of them over the years, and if we recognize the hidden village as Old Kakariko, I'm not kidding, just read the sign, we end up with a nice bunch of things to do in the town or village. These includes everything from the frustrating and inducing Dampus grave digging tour, finding Angel's Cuckoos, minigame galleries, hunting posts, to western style shootouts against bokoblins and finding cats for a Cucco leader of all things. I'm confident Zelda Wii U will not disappoint in this regard and be full of returning and completely new activities that, just like in Majora's Mask, will be available in some extent prior to completing the dungeon and then open up even more after completing the dungeon in the vicinity of the village. In terms of side quests, I believe they should be structured in a similar manner. Some of them should be available prior to entering the dungeon, while others will appear after defeating the boss. After all, we all remember the Big Goron sword trade quests began with receiving a simple egg from Andrew. It will be interesting to see if Zelda Wii U will manage to include similar lengthy and meaningful side quests in this iteration of Kakariko.
We may already have referenced many of them, but there are several iconic and recognisable characters tied to Kakariko. But this raises one important question: will Hylians be present in Zelda Wii U's Kakariko Village? The answer, once again, depends on the timeline placement. If the Sheikah still inhabit the town or village, it's likely that we will not see Hylians in Kakariko, as Ocarina of Time's Impa first opened the village for settlers after the Sheikah were gone in the unified timeline. But what about the Gorons? Could they appear in the village? After all, in Twilight Princess, the Gorons came down to the village after Link freed their patriarch from the Twilight Curse. There is a possibility we might see the Gorons and Sheikah present in the village at the same time, as we know Death Mountain and Kakariko lie close to each other. We will have to wait and see whether this will be the case in Zelda Wii U. The Hylians, however, will take a central stage if the game takes place in the Child timeline, where the Sheikah are mostly extinct, and the village has been settled by less affluent Hylians. In this case, we might see the return of several of the actual or similar characters to Dampe, Goro Goro, Anju, the Lazy Carpenters, and Renado.
The Cuckoos are the most iconic characters of Kakariko. These small but angry birds that in a large pack will unleash an unmatched ambush of fury have been beloved and a reminder of morale and proper behavior since 1991. Still, more than 9 years have passed since we last saw them in the most unexciting way in Twilight Princess. If we exclude that embarrassing incident, then we must as far back as Majora's Mask to find the last time they were properly present in a 3D Zelda installment, causing death and despair for Link. In other words, the Cuckoos must make a grand comeback in Zelda Wii U, and with the inclusion of them in Hyrule Warriors and Anuma performing Cuckoo dances, I am pretty sure they will not forget this time to include the Cuckoos in Kakariko, or else.
Let's face it, The minor NPCs in the Zelda series have been terrible, and the only exception from this has been in Majora's Mask's Clock Town. In Kakariko, for instance, close to none of them have been dynamic, which has caused the impression of a static and boring village where people just stand in one place and nothing really happens. This must change in Zelda Wii U. The NPCs not only should but also must be dynamic, with high artificial intelligence and programmed day and night time activities. They should be walking the streets freely and at least reply with a short line of dialogue unique to that specific NPC when approaching them. And even better, this short dialogue or cutscene should in several instances lead to the beginning of a lengthy and involving side quest that might continue outside of the village.
While the village of Kakariko has always had that higgledy-piggledy charm, its depths and temple are hiding several dark and bloody secrets. Zelda Wii U should build upon this premise. Since though dungeons and mini-dungeons in Kakariko have only appeared in one 3D installment to this point, nothing stands in the way that we might again see one dungeon, or even an additional mini-dungeon in this area. In Ocarina of Time we had both a Sheikah dungeon, the Shadow Temple, and a mini-dungeon, the Bottom of the Well. Perhaps we might see a similar division to this one in Zelda Wii U. After all, Zelda Wii U, with its much vaster overworld, will need to include a high number of dungeons, and this could be a brilliant opportunity to implement some of the darkest, but at the same time most ingenious dungeons and mini-dungeons in the series. Let us begin with the mini-dungeons.
Ocarina of Time had the Bottom of the Well or the Well of Three Features, a non-obligatory trap-filled underground maze with many illusionary walls and floors, and Deadhand, a disgusting beast guarding the Lens of Truth. Majora's Mask had beneath the Ikana Well a much vaster mandatory maze-like mini-dungeon that required the player to wear the Gibdo mask in order to deliver specific items to the Gibdos that block the doors within the maze. At the end, you are granted the Mirror Shield and the entrance to Ikana Castle, or the Castle of the Dead if you prefer. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what Nintendo EAD3 will bring to the table, as it has been a while since we climbed our way down to the eternal darkness of Kakariko's undergrounds and sewers.
In terms of the dungeons, we have one great dungeon that might serve as inspiration, namely the Shadow Temple. The Shadow Temple, as one of the later dungeons in Ocarina of Time, is uncomfortably linear and would have been considered as one of the weaker ones in the game. However, this dungeon design fit the place perfectly, as it to this day continues to haunt players with its linear prison, execution and burial chambers. That is the entire truth about the Shadow Temple. You need the Lens of Truth and the hovering boots, since this is one of the places outsiders were not meant to discover, or even more, explore. In other words, you could either in advance obtain the Lens of Truth and pass pretty convenient through the dungeon, or you could go straight forward and have the worst time of your life, failing on trap puzzles, falling down bottomless pits, not seeing the giant reapers before being sliced, and not seeing the hidden blocks in several of the chambers, and so on and so on.
Then what about Zelda Wii U? Will we see a return to a dark and gritty dungeon referencing to Kakariko's bloody past, or does Nintendo EAD3 have something completely different in store for us? This is difficult to predict based on the gameplay footage available. Nevertheless, with the re-implementation of the Magic Bar and potentially the Lens of Truth, we might be in for a return of several magic-based puzzles and designs, encompassed within the dungeons. This is specifically interesting as these types of dungeon puzzles, based on the elements of invisibility in conjugation with fire, ice and light, have all been absent from the series since Wind Waker in 2003. It's time for them to return. Summing up, we can say that Kakariko in Zelda Wii U has all the necessary elements to unleash the full potential within one of the most iconic urban areas in the series. More importantly is the return of the Magic Bar that paves the way for re-implementing several magic draining items such as the Lens of Truth tied to the enigmatic Sheikah, and build the dungeon puzzles and layouts on these. Furthermore, the important clue in the form of the eye symbol on Link's wooden shield might point that this will be the hero's place of emergence, and that Link this time might have a connection to the Sheikah, who for the first time could appear as a numerous society with Kakariko as their capital. With the return of the angry Cuckoos, iconic landmarks, implementation of unique and dynamic NPCs with day and nighttime activities, great side quests and a dungeon and well that will send shivers down our spine, it's certain that Kakariko in Zelda Wii U has the potential to become a truly deserving Sheikah capital.
Ed, thank you for joining me, and also thank to to all of you for watching this episode of Zelda Unknown and helping this channel reach 3000 subscribers. Do not forget to like, share and comment under this video, and if you're new, we would be thankful if you want to subscribe to our 2 channels, as it helps tremendously with development of future uploads and series. I also want to thank Jessica Smith for allowing us to feature her incredible concept art of Kakariko in Zelda Wii U. In fact, she has actually recorded a little greetings to all of us.
Hey guys, my name's Jessica Smith and I'm a freelance concept artist and illustrator, but most of you probably know me for my Zelda open world paintings that I've done, and you might have seen on Reddit and everything. This series, it's a personal project of mine that I've been doing in my spare time between client work to help improve my environment design, and it's also to share my vision to the rest of the Zelda community and fans of what I think the new game could possibly look like. There's more paintings coming up in this little project of mine, so if you're interested, stay tuned. If you want to see my work, you can visit artofjess.com. Everything is there, including my Deviantart and Tumblr links if you're interested in that. And if you want to buy prints of any artworks of mine, you can visit my Society 6 store, which you can find on my website as well. Cool, thank you.
Kakariko is truly an iconic location in the series, but whether it will feel alive or dead depends on the day and night cycle within the game. Will it last for the 24 real-life hours? Jump over to Zeltik in order to find out more, and where we will take on to explain one of the most important mechanics in Zelda Wii U. The next episode of Zelda Unknown will be a 2-part special with McIntyre Productions and Zeltik, where the first part will be uploaded to his channel and the second to my channel. Until then, this was the Commonwealth Realm
and Zeltik,
and we will see you girls and guys soon.